Welcome to Far Out with Faust. I'm Faust Chicho, and this morning I'm sitting here with Kateria Manning. Kateria is a life coach. She's a spiritual astrologer and an astrological scientist. She's been in the study of astrology for over 22 years and been practicing for over a decade as a professional. Kateria believes that astrology is the study of heaven's influence upon the earth, and that a knower of it leads a life of heavenly existence. So I'm thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for beaming in, Kateria. It's great to have you. Grateful for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So it's so funny. I listened to you talk, and I've been like learning so much about astrology. But as soon as I heard what you were saying, I was like, man, I don't know nearly enough about astrology. Like, what is how am I missing this whole body of knowledge and work? It's crazy.
Right, right. It's a fascinating science.
It is. And speaking of science, I know you attended a little bit about your background. I know you attended a school of astrology, and that you had some formal studies in it, and that you also teach it. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is true. That is correct. I
That's
am a self-taught astrologer. I started studying astrology when I was 11 years old. I am now 34. And when I was 20, when I was, how old was I? I was 25. I met Ra Aku, the cosmophysician, who is the creator of a field of astrology called cosmophysics. And so his schooling is called the Academy of Cosmophysics. So I studied under him for a few months, and what he was able to do, he kind of like put the pieces of astrology together for me and gave me just I had a foundation, and then he came and wrapped up my foundation and made it very sturdy and expanded my mind of the way that I see the science.
excellent. How long ago? How young were you when you started that training?
I was 25.
Awesome. Look, I heard and learned a lot about like some of the struggles that you went through when you were a kid, and makes me even more kind of blown away by where you are right now. And um, because you did not have an easy go at it. You did not have an easy childhood, and you overcame a lot, and realized a lot about what was showing up in your life. Um, and I just think it's worth mentioning for people who are, still very much um, dealing with some things that they don't understand why they keep showing up in their life. So I just thought I would bring it up. I don't know if you want to get in, if you
Oh,
feel comfortable
sure.
talking
I
about
mean,
it.
absolutely. I can't talk about astrology without talking about my life. So, most definitely. And I'm grateful that you would even mention that. And thank you for the compliment of my overcoming and things of the sort. Yet, and nevertheless, astrology, I tell people, astrology saved my life. It literally saved my life. When it comes to my life story, I've had a very rough upbringing. I've had a very rough life. When I was just coming into life on planet Earth, just from conception, my father was married to another woman and came to America. He's from Trinidad. He came to America to make a way for his family back in Trinidad, but met my mother in Louisiana and ended up having 4 children out of wedlock. So, and then he's now back with his wife and has been for many years. I love my father. I have a great relationship with my stepmother as well. Yet, and nevertheless, that was just rough. My father was on cocaine, crack cocaine as a child, which caused a lot of havoc in my earlier upbringing, and he was abusive to my mother. My mother escaped from him with her 4 children, with my brother and sisters and I, and we were homeless for a time, for a while, and we slept in churches. We were in homeless shelters, and we were just the very poor children on the block when we were growing up, so poor that at times we had to steal water from our next door neighbors' houses to brush our teeth. And there was a time where my sister, she was so clever, she is so clever, she she got an extension cord and plugged it into our next door neighbors' houses so that we would have lights in our house. And we got away with this for a few months, for like 3 months. And yes, so we grew up really rough, very poor, and my mom is actually diagnosed bipolar schizophrenic. She's doing a lot better. I love my mother, but growing up, she was extremely abusive, and we just went without a lot. I've been bit in the face by a dog too when I was 10 years old, and I did
Damn.
2.5. Yes, I still have the scar on my eyelid. Um, and I did 2.5 years in juvenile hall as well for something I didn't do. And
Damn.
my mother didn't have the money to, fight and get lawyers to get me out of
Yeah.
juvenile hall. But as a matter of fact, juvenile hall was a saving grace for me, because when I was 11 years old, I started studying astrology, but I grew up in a Christian household. So my mother wouldn't allow me to read astrology, study it whatsoever. It was of the devil. So I would have to sneak and hide. And then she threw my astrology books away. But when I went into juvenile hall for 2.5 years, I didn't have anything else to do but read astrology books. They had astrology books. So I got a chance to
Wow.
really dive in deeper and take my knowledge to the next level. And I also learn different things about myself, my character, and learn that I can draw portraits of people too. So that was incredible. And nevertheless, when I was 16 years old, when I was locked up, I casted my first astrology chart by hand manually. I did all the calculations, but I had the wrong time of birth. So I was a Virgo rising for like 16 years. Um, Found out later, right before my Saturn's return. I was so prepared for my Saturn's return, but then I found out 2 months before it started that I had the wrong time of birth.
You're
And
like, oh no. You were so young though. I mean,
I know, I didn't know. My mom I didn't know that she told all of us we were born at 7:30 p.m. But come to find out, I was born at 8:15 a.m. and I am a Pisces rising. So what I prepared for was completely opposite of what happened, the complete flip of the coin. And my Saturn's return was extremely devastating, because the preparations were not correct. Um, but yes, like I was stating, just to wrap this part up, astrology saved my life. With coming from so much hardship, I became really stiff, and I suffered from anxiety disorder for many years, even to the point where I was put on an antidepressant and things to cope with the anxiety. But when I started to really take astrology more seriously, I started to understand people, and I don't have judgment towards others. And I knew myself and how to navigate my life. And I know what to do, when to do it. And coming from being so poor and homeless and all of these things now to making well over 6 figures. I'm 34 years old and I take care of myself and my family with this science, but it's not even just the money aspect, even though in my chart, I'm supposed to be on my grind, make my money. So I know what to do and how to do it. But just who I connect with, when I connect, what I do, how I raise my children. I'm clear. I'm not in fear. I am free. I know what I need to do for myself. I'm empowered. I don't go through I don't have the victimhood mentality anymore to suffer from the things that I've suffered with before because of my astrology chart, because I know who I am. I didn't have a healthy mother or a healthy father, but I always had the stars to guide me. The sun is my father. The water is my mother. And I've been well-rounded and rendered and raised.
I get goosebumps just listening to you talk about it. It's incredible. It's an incredible story with so much trauma that I think most people would have had a lot of difficulty overcoming. And I know that no one walks away unscathed, no matter, whatever the appearance is. So I just take my invisible hat off to you so that you understand how great I respect that. And thank you for sharing it all and being so honest about it. It's awesome. It's funny because I'm named after a famous story about a metaphysician, this Faust character. Not that my parents knew anything about that, but that's the name I have. And so I should know more about this subject. But it's so cool that I just trust synchronicity. It never leads me astray. I don't know how I ended up reading about you. But I just sparked this whole interest, and I was like, man, I have to reach out to her. I don't, maybe she's incredibly busy and doesn't have time for things like this, but I have to try, because it was so fascinating learning what I was learning, and then hearing you talk about it. But the science of astrology, it's people think about astrology a certain way, especially in our Western culture, and it's there has not been a lot of justice done to the science of astrology. In fact, most people would argue that there's no science to astrology. I mean, people who really don't know and who think astrology is horoscopes that
Right.
they used to read in the newspaper when they used to get it delivered.
Right. Yeah, true.
But you talk about how astrology gives you the opportunity to see your soul's blueprint, and what you need to evolve and ascend in this life. And you talk about the heavens, and like you were just saying, and how people find heaven on earth by following this spiritual science of astrology. It's one of the many ways, and I would love for you to talk a little more about that and your experience with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my favorite quote, and you were speaking about it, my favorite quote that I came up with when it comes to this science is, astrology is the story of the heavens' influence upon the earth. When you align with the stars, you live a life of a heavenly existence. And so, what I mean by that, it doesn't matter what culture you come from, what language you speak, what form of spirituality you follow or religion you follow, we all consider the stars and the planets to be the heavens. Even if you're an ant, we consider the stars and the planets to be the heavens. And so if the stars and the planets, the universe, are the heavens, but we have a science, we have astrology that connects us to the heavens. If we follow astrology, we can live in a heavenly existence. Now, also, I tell people, don't forget the fact that earth is also in the heavens. So you are able to live heaven on earth. The stars and the planets are the earth's big brothers, sisters, uncles, family members. And when you're in a family and your family is like, no, you need to do this, you need to go to school, you need to handle your life like this, that, and the third. When you listen to your family and their guidance, you're like, okay, yeah, no. And or if you're watching their examples, like, okay, I'm not gonna get on drugs, I'm not gonna do what they did, you can learn, you can
Yeah.
grow. So you can become one with the heavens when you follow astrology. It's the one science that we have that connects human existence in the heavens. So I have been able to certainly reach a level of a heavenly existence with this science, because I know what's happening. I know what's going on. And let me say this, heaven is a state of mind. Heaven is a state of mind. And with me knowing astrology, I have so much peace and I have so much freedom within my mind, because I don't judge a person. I don't judge a situation. I know that everything that we are experiencing on earth is simply the creator's story, and we are a part of the creator's story. So I'm not going to get too upset. Don't get me wrong. I do have human emotions. I have the whole array of them and I've experienced them. Yet, nevertheless, I don't get too bogged down on what is happening, because I know that this is a divine story that the creator is telling, and I'm just honored to be a part of the story. And when it comes to people in their ways of being and their ways of doing, I don't judge them, because I'm like, I don't know what's in their chart that makes them do the things that they do. I don't know what's going on in their life to why they are, whatever they are learning, their life experience is their experience. And when you judge something, judgment comes from the sign of Libra, but Libra also rules attachment. So when you're judging something, you have an attachment to it. When you're not judging something, you have freedom from that attachment. So you live freely. And for me, heaven, or the heavenly state of mind, is to be free, is to enjoy life as the passerby that you are within this existence. And that makes you an accomplice with the universe. You see how you are limitless. You see how you have eternal life, because this life on planet Earth is just one experience of the whole cosmic universe. So it's like, okay, I am here now. These are the things that we do on Earth. We feel emotions of sadness, depression, anger, happiness, joy, elation. We also have children on Earth. We have these physical bodies. We have hair. We have the trees, the animals, and water. But in other existences, there are completely different, things. Like in the human experience, it's so ruled by the sign Taurus. Okay, the human experience is ruled by the sign Taurus. And so Taurus rules the senses. So our senses are hyper active. Like you feel your body more in the human existence. This is why transitioning is so difficult, because we feel ourselves, we feel like this is so real. The sign Taurus is things that are tangible and things that are real. Okay. But in other existences, we know that we're dreaming.
Right.
We're elusive, we're see-through, we're translucent in other existences. And in some, we're, the reality is harder. Some are, a lot softer, so on and so forth. And when you read astrology, you see that limitlessness of life, of all existence, because even my astrology chart, or anyone's astrology chart for that matter, when you calculate their time of birth and you keep pulling up charts even past their transition date, past the day that they die,
Right.
You can see their life still continuing.
That's right. I never even wow. That's, I don't know a lot about how that is, but that's mind blowing to hear you say that. And of course, I believe wholeheartedly in what you're saying. And we have a society that is very much, it's a pro Taurus society. I think, it enforces, or I should say, reinforces this notion that we are our bodies, and that everything, what is in existence can be physically felt and touched and smelled. And look, I'm a huge fan of this human technology and these bodies that we have. They're amazing. I love this existence, but I know that it's not all there is. In fact, I know that it's just a little minuscule percentage of what's out there and what there is to experience and what we experience. My dog is going to go ahead and ruin everything I was saying.
No, you're fine.
Sorry about that. So wow, to hear how astrology begins to define some of the things, and some of the struggles you see happening with society, and to hear you speak about freedom to live your life without fear. It's so cool, because I didn't know astrology was this deep. I didn't know. And I hear you talk, there is such inspiration and passion in how you talk about it. And I love my job. It's fantastic.
I love that. I mean, I know there are many astrologers that don't see it the way that I do. The ones that are advanced, we begin to see, the wholeness of life, and you start to see life as a pattern, and it will expand your mind. I also have Mercury and Aquarius in the 12th house. So I do think in these types of, manners, but the sign Aquarius rules astrology. So I think like an astrologer, I think like the science was intended, but yeah, it's a fascinating science. And I'm going to give an example with my children. My daughter is a Scorpio. My son is an Aries, and they have their north nodes in different placements. And my daughter does things that I don't want her to do, but that's me, that's my mind. But I'm like, oh, in her chart, she's supposed to move like this and like that and do these things. Yeah, she should be sleeping all day. That's what I would be telling a client if they had this in their chart, So I just let her do what she does. She has to, do certain things, but I'm like, yeah, go to sleep again. Go on ahead. And it makes me feel free, and then with my son, I'm like, okay, no, you need to knock it off. You need to do this, and I clap, I raise them based on their chart. And I have a wonderful, relationship with my children. Whereas the ages that they are, people have difficult times with their children. My son's 11 and my daughter is 14 and she's a Scorpio. I'm an Aquarius. We square. We don't square in this house. I'm like, I told her, I was like, Bianca, I want to cut my hair like this, but I'm so scared. And she's like, no, mom, that's cool. That's the shag mullet. Do it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to love that on you. And me and her are like best friends because I know astrology. If I didn't know astrology, me and her would be bumping heads. I would have sent her to live with her dad.
That's unbelievable. I have two kids. They're not quite as up in years as yours, but man, and one's a Gemini and one's a Scorpio, I think. So you know, they're so unique. It's so different, but I have a lot to learn because you know, they're so, you know, they have their ideas and
Yeah.
you know, you want to give them the freedom to be and to live and try to understand that what they're doing they need to do for them, not for you. But that's so
For
cool to hear.
themselves. And
Yeah.
see, when my children get disciplined, it's when they're doing something outside of their heavenly right. So if my daughter is not being compassionate or empathetic, that's when I tell her, like, no, you need to knock it off. Stop being judgmental, critical, and things of the sort. She has the South Node in Virgo. I was like, you need to be more compassionate. You wouldn't like if someone felt that way or said that about you. So that's when you get me, you know, telling my children something or disciplining them if it's based in their chart. If it's not in their chart and it's just in my ego, I'm not dealing with it.
Right. Uh, I love that. It's a great parenting, great parenting style. I think, you know, and allows and fosters a lot of empathy and freedom at the same time. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna adopt what I'm learning from you. Yeah, absolutely. You have to explain to me because I don't. You know, I'm trying to learn what you mean when you say nodes. I know that everyone has their own nodes, but I don't know how they work. I mean, they're probably like really basic, and it's probably a silly question, but I don't know what they are. Can you tell me? But
Absolutely. So the nodes are not basic. And they, to me, are the most important part of astrology in a person's chart, and just even in our day-to-day life, actually. So the nodes, we have a north node and we have a south node. And our nodes, they're very spiritual. They are spiritual purpose and things of the sort. The south node it indicates the character traits, qualities, and characteristics that you have developed over eons of lifetimes. And this is like your default position within yourself. And it's your comfort zone, but we know that there's not much growth or any for that matter where comfort is. Your north node shows and indicates the character traits, qualities that you need to develop in order to evolve, grow, and ascend in this lifetime. Now, the issue with the north and the south node is that they are at a complete 180-degree angle from each other, completely opposite. They're in opposite signs and opposite houses as well. And, you know, so this creates havoc because you are your south node naturally, but you have to become your north node. And it's like literally telling a square that he now has to become a circle.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it just brought up this image of, you know, you see well, you know, the flower of life. And then when you connect the geometry in the masculine way with the straight, I don't know how, like, it's almost like, if you can
Yes.
see the, you know, there's there's the masculine and the feminine, right?
Yes.
And but they're the same thing, but they're so different.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it reminds me of. It's
Yeah, that's exactly how it is with the polarities in astrology. They're the same thing, yet they're so different. You know, they want the same thing, but they go about it in different ways. You know, so but yeah, the nodes. So I'll give an example. A Cancer South node has a Capricorn North Node, just based off of its instance. And that Cancer South Node person, they're going to be so caught up within themselves, their emotions. They are deep feelers. Oftentimes they are stuck at home with their parents well into their 30s. They love their comfort. They take things personally. They get offended easily. They're overly sensitive. But with having that North Node in the sign of Capricorn, they're learning to become more mature, responsible about their time management, more structured and disciplined. They're learning to move away from the family, get out of the home, start a business, or get into some form of a job and create a name and a legacy for themselves. But it's so hard for them to do that because they, their comfort zone, their family, their emotions, when they are in the public eye, they also feel afraid, they feel fear, and they're just like, if someone says something mean to them, they take it personally, and they're like, they're super sensitive. And yeah, it's a very deep and difficult experience for all of us. Every single person on earth has a challenge with what they have to grow into, even without knowing about their nodes or anything of the sort. Yet, and nevertheless, we end up becoming just a different version of ourselves. All of us, at some point, if we are growing in our lives, we deal with our family members or close people around us saying, "You're so different, you've changed." And it's usually they came from their South Node to their North Node. Now, the thing about the North and the South Node is that every few days they go retrograde and direct.
They start to confuse the shit out of you. Is that what you're saying?
So you've heard of Mercury retrograde, correct?
Well, yeah. So I've been hearing about it for a long time, and that is going to be my next question, because I'm trying to get a grasp on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mercury retrograde is when the planet Mercury is seemingly going backwards. So a retrograde is an optical illusion. It's when one planet is going forward past another planet, and it looks like that planet that is going past is going backwards. Similar to when you're driving in a car and you're passing up another vehicle. If you actually look at that other car's tires, it looks like that car is driving backwards when it's not. Yeah. So that car that's going backwards is considered to be in retrograde. So when we experience a retrograde, nevertheless, the influence or the characteristics of that particular planet seem to go haywire on planet Earth. So Mercury rules communication, it rules short distance travels, it rules the mailing system as well, it rules your neighborhood, your siblings, and things of the sort. So when we have Mercury going retrograde, and of course, depending upon the sign in the house that is going retrograde in your chart, you will be affected in those particular areas with miscommunication, with troubles with your phones and things like that. But to bring it back to my point, the nodes, they go retrograde every few days. Sometimes it's direct for 2 days, and then it goes retrograde for 5 days, and then it goes direct for 7 days, and then it goes retrograde for 12 days. Every single year, they are on this cycle. So this is why we have that up and down feeling in life.
My God, that explains so much.
Yeah, this is why we feel like we're getting ahead and we're doing awesome. And then we go back to our lower traits and characteristics.
Yeah. And why the because you really start to, I think, soar and fly when you start to get more comfortable in what you describe as your North Node. Is another way of saying is like, when you're really embodying your higher self, and
yes.
Wonderful things are happening, and there's a lot of joy, and then not that anything happens, but then it's just one morning you wake up and you're like, I just want to like have a piece of pizza for breakfast, and maybe call in some ice cream for lunch and not leave the house. Say, I don't feel any of those things anymore. Yeah, it's just and I always wondered why. I know I'm not the only one who experiences that kind of ebb and flow.
All do. Like, just speaking of the diet, for instance, I have one of the most strictest diets I've ever heard of. I don't eat fruit.
Mhm.
whatsoever. I'm allergic to sucrose, glucose, and so all sugar, I don't eat anything processed. Everything is a whole food and everything is anti-inflammatory. I don't eat any nightshade vegetables. And this is all because I am allergic to these things.
Mhm.
I love chocolate cake. I dream about chocolate cake. I look like a person that loves chocolate cake, right? And um sometimes I'm just so grateful for my diet. I'm like, I am so grateful that I have these allergies, because with me eating as clean as I do, I'm able to thrive and I have so much strength and intelligence, and I look younger than my age. I'm happy about it. My body feels healthy and strong and good. Sometimes I literally have to walk away from a building because they have chocolate chip cookies or something, and I cry. And I will actually cry.
Yeah.
My children are eating this stuff, and I'm just like, but I'm like,
Yeah.
why am I even crying? Because I am actually really grateful for my diet.
Yeah. But
But we
you have
fluctuate.
you're entitled to your moments. I mean, like if I couldn't have,
No, I would end up in the hospital.
yeah. No, but I know, but what I'm saying is you're entitled to feel the way you feel about it
Oh, my
sometimes.
feelings.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you should just splurge once in a while and put yourself in anaphylactic shock or anything like that. But man, I get them. I get it. It's hard, it's, I mean, some foods, and I feel like, part of the experience of being human is tasting and sensing and smelling and enjoying this these amazing
Of
bodies.
course.
So it's like I'm always trying to walk the line, and not
Absolutely.
overindulge, but yeah.
Absolutely. And something I wanted to share in regards to that too, because a lot of astrologers, we call the North Node the purpose in life. And when people hear, oh, my life purpose, they oftentimes think career. But your career and your life purpose are not always the same. Your purpose should assist you with your career, but they're not the same thing. Career is even a human or man-made conception, an idea, yet and nevertheless your purpose in life is who you're becoming as a person, as a being. And so the North Node points to those character traits that you need to develop, and that is your purpose. But with you developing those character traits, this is going to lead you into becoming a successful being in life. But success is not just by work, because some people, their North Node is in the sign of Cancer, and they're to be a mother or a caregiver and be at home with the family, and that is their purpose. And that's not necessarily dealing with a career and fame or all of these things. So I
Yeah.
just want to put that out there.
No, I'm so glad you did, man. I was just like, I'm having these visions of like, if I was in charge of the education system in this country, and just how radical it would change in my tenure
Right.
as boss of the United States, and what children would learn about, and compared to what they learn about now, which is a lot of fabricated facts that don't mean anything,
Right, right.
but
Agree.
I'm so glad that you said that. It's another amazing thing to hear. I heard you talk about challenges and what they do, what each and every challenge does to people when they are overcome, but also, you know it's like you said, a career is not always what you think it is, and I think of, quote, victory over a challenge is not always what we think it is. I know a lot of people who have, overcome hardships, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure if the way they overcame them could be called a victory. I mean, because the effect that it has had on them is
Yeah,
still lingering, and still
yeah,
showing up, and still causing these patterns in their life to come around and around and around, and they manifest differently, but they'll keep manifesting until
right.
there's a true healing. And I think forgiveness, is one of the most underrated, important aspects of healing and trauma, especially in this world we're living in right now.
Yes.
But Tell me about challenges and how they affect people and what people can gain from meeting them and overcoming them.
Yeah. So when it comes to challenges, challenges are the whole, I just want to tell people to take in the entire human experience, everything, all of the emotions, all of the experiences. To try to diminish or not experience certain things is to literally negate and neglect you having a full human experience. Because like I mentioned before, when we live in other dimensions and other realities, it's an entirely different thing that our human minds can't even think about how life in other dimensions actually would be. We still see it in human form, and we don't even be in these human forms. Now, when it comes to challenges in your life, those things are happening in your life in order for you to have and go through your character development. Do understand that, yes, Earth is about having fun, and it is a vacation. It is also a learning experience for your own soul's evolution, for you to get to a greater expanded being body, like a planet, like a star, or some other astral body, that you're evolving into. So, and something that I've heard so powerful when it comes to having challenges, instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? Start thinking, how is this assisting me in my growth and my development? Don't take it in a way to where you are in some form of a pity party. Of course, cry and reflect and experience your emotions. Nevertheless, know that everything that you experience in this life is a part of your schooling for your betterment. Know that challenges are for your growth and development. And now when it comes to karmic challenges, because there are differences when it comes to challenges. There are karmic challenges where you're paying off a karmic debt for something that you did either in this physical reality or in a past life, and you have to pay that off. When you deal with a karmic challenge, be grateful that you paid off that karmic debt. You know how good it feels to finally pay off your credit card. Like, yes, I have to pay it off, and now you can be more free. So and I see that in people's lives, like they will deal with something very heavy, and you can tell it's karmatic, like a death or, some type of a trauma. And it's like, okay, well, be happy, because now you're free from that experience looming over you. And now you're in an opportunity of growth, like in expansion, because trauma is actually ruled by the zodiac sign Scorpio. Trauma, death, those very heavy sabotaging experiences, they're ruled by Scorpio. But what sign comes after Scorpio is Sagittarius. What does Sagittarius rule? Growth, expansion, spirituality, travel, abundance, prosperity, laughter, joy, all things good. So when you experience a heavy trauma, you are now aligning for good to come into your life. We see it, and this is what the Illuminati does. When people sign up for the Illuminati, they have to experience some type of a heavy traumatic experience, and then they're able to come into this abundance and all of these kinds of things. Okay, so understand that about trauma challenges. Now, when it comes to other types of challenges of just growth, or say, for instance, a challenge where you get a ticket from, a cop. I don't see that as a karmatic challenge.
Right.
It's just, learning, like, what, I shouldn't be speeding in this area. That's just
school zone here with all the flashing lights.
That happened to me the other day, actually. And, and I'm going to utilize myself as the example. I was speeding in a school zone last week, and I got a ticket, my first ticket in years. But I didn't even fret at all, because when I got the ticket, I was actually really pissed off and hurt and angry. Yeah. And I acted upon my emotions. And acting upon your emotions is something that you shouldn't do, because action is ruled by the planet Mars. Mars is the planet that rules the sign Aries. Emotion is ruled by the zodiac sign Cancer. Mars is at a fall in the sign of Cancer, meaning that's the worst place, one of the worst places for the planet Mars to be in. It doesn't like being in Cancer. because you're not supposed to act on your emotions. Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon is a reflective surface. When you have emotions, you're supposed to sit back and reflect upon those emotions, feel them, and see what the roots of them are, then come up with some type of responsible discernment before you begin to act. Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn, meaning the very best sign for it to be in. What is Capricorn? It's responsible. It's mature. It's well thought out. It takes time. It rules time. So you are supposed to take your time when you're acting upon something. You're supposed to make sure the actions you are taking are responsible and mature. So nevertheless, I was acting out of emotion when I was speeding. So that taught me to, stay in alignment. And also it taught me on a metaphysical lesson, when you are tapped into negative vibrational frequencies, you're going to attract a negative experience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, how many emails have you composed in great emotion and haste, and then made the mistake of sending and been like, even an hour later, you come back to your sentence and you're like, what the fuck? Why did I do that? Why did I say that? I mean, I think everyone has had the experience.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why, because you should not be operating from that place. And you know what? Every time, and obviously you learn to make this a habit, or you end up with a lot of things repeating in your life. But I habitually now can step back and be the observer. But I get tempted once in a while. I'll start writing a sentence and be like, no. But every time I do that, every time I compose and I just reflect and I let the storm pass before I begin to think about and compose my thoughts about something in response, or I'm so grateful I did that, because the response is nothing. It's usually night and day compared to what I was thinking would be a proper response.
Right.
Just a few minutes earlier, and those are the little choices that begin to rearrange the patterns in your life, and the things that are showing up, and the drama or lack thereof that is manifesting in your life, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I learned about the nodes. I learned about Mercury in retrograde. I mean, that's why everyone is like, my phone's all fucked up and this is going haywire. And, Mercury's in retrograde. I'm like, wait a minute. How do those things? Well, now I have a little better understanding of what those things have to do with each other. But, so astrologically speaking, like what happens at the moment, so when you're born, right, and the moment of your conception, like what's the most important moment astrologically speaking? Is there a defining moment? Like what? Because when you look for someone and you say like for example, your mom had the time wrong of your birth, and I'm sure you were like, Mom, that has to be accurate in order for you to, what's the difference? How does it change everything?
So the time of birth is vital. I actually don't do readings without the time of birth. If someone does not have their time of birth, I sit down with them. It takes about 10 to 30 minutes to determine their time of birth for myself. Mm-hmm. And it is vital, because your time of your birthday is going to tell you where your planets are, but your time of birth is going to be able to accurately calculate the degrees that those planets are, which matter, but it's going to let you know what your rising sign is. Your rising sign is your personality. It's your physical body. It's your physical experience in life. And also the moon moves very fast too. So sometimes if you have the wrong time of birth, your moon sign, and it's still the same birthday, your moon sign could be different by 1 or 2 signs. It could be either or, this sign or that sign, 2 different signs. So the time of birth is essential to getting an accurate reading. As a matter of fact, your predictions are going to be very minimal if you don't have the time of birth. really, when it comes to not having the time of birth, you're just able to tell people about their planets that, oh, you have Mercury and Gemini, whoop-de-doo. I don't know what house it's in. I don't know, if it's in a house of a detriment, or if I'm trying to predict for someone, I'm like, yeah, we're having Mercury retrograde coming up. And they're like, oh, what does that mean for me? I don't know. I don't know what house it's going to fall in.
Right. Because you don't know
the time.
So when someone so I'm a Leo.
Oh, when's your birthday?
August 7th. I don't know how to interpret that. Is that
I was in love with an August 7th Leo.
Oh, no wonder I found you and was like, wow, I got to reach out.
So fascinated by him too. I literally had to do all that I can to move past it. I still love him. I will always love him forever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And my mom's a Leo, my wife's a Leo, and I mean and I have a twin brother, identical twin brother, and even we're obviously different personalities, but
right.
I feel what I know about Leos, I feel like I'm when people find out I'm a Leo, they're not very surprised. But like I look at my wife she's such a different Leo than me. She was born July 30th, and even my mom, who was born July 26th, so how does that affect the sign? I mean, I know that obviously the male female aspect of it is also a big thing, but I know people are like, oh well, you were born too close to this date, so you're more of I'm like, wait a minute, either I'm Leo or I'm not. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, that's true. So that's based upon the time of birth. Because you are a Leo, but who knows? You could be a Capricorn rising, whereas your wife could be a Cancer rising, making you guys completely different from each other. Your mom could be a Libra rising, so
that's why the time of birth is so important.
Yes. Right? In the time of birth, it determines your rising sign, which is your personality, and also that your rising sign is going to determine all of your 12 houses, where there are 12 houses in astrology. So we need to know where you start. Are you a Taurus rising? Because if you're a Taurus rising, then your second house is going to be Gemini, third house is going to be Cancer, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, your wife may be a Leo. She may have Mercury in Leo. You may have Mercury in Leo, but her Mercury may fall in the 12th house, whereas your Mercury may fall in the 6th house, making you guys communicate completely differently, but you still have that Leo expression. And so when it comes to the Leo, you may be a leader, you may be confident, whereas your wife may be creative. That's still Leo. There are so many different character traits, and she could be romantic or loving or attention seeking or whatever the heck it may be. There are so many different character traits and qualities when it comes to the sign of Leo. You may have some of those traits more dominant, where she may not have them so much dominant, but there are other traits of the Leo where they may be more dominant in her, whereas not so much in yourself.
Can astrology predict the day or the time that you're going to transition or die?
It could predict the exact day, how you're going to pass away, into the time, to the minute.
Wow.
Of your death.
Well, I didn't know that. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to, I predict death. When it comes to astrology, I don't just go and start telling people when they're going to die. Only when a client asks about a family member, about themselves and things of the sort, I will go into that. Nevertheless, sometimes when you read death in a person's chart, it doesn't always mean that they're going to die. It could also indicate that they're going to give birth. It can indicate that they're going to go through a deep transformation. Now, if death is looming, there has to be many other things that are pointing to this person's demise. There are ways to negate that. But they still have to go through a transformation. I predicted death. I've predicted death several times, but I predicted a death coming to a client of mine last year. He paid for my Supreme Deluxe Destiny reading, and I'm looking at his chart. He just wants to know simple stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to move. And I know that we don't like psychics that do that type of stuff. I don't like to do that, like to just uproot my whole life. But it's very rare that it comes out like that. But I'm like, you need to move the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
And he was like, why do you say that? I said, he had like 8 indicators of death. Yeah. And he was like, I got another reading from a Babalao that said that, and da 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 da. And I was like, you are safe here. You are not safe at home. Mm-hmm. And I said, you need to move literally today or tomorrow. And I told him where he needed to move to, where he would be safe. Mm-hmm. He ends up connecting with me a few weeks later, telling me that where he was staying at, some people came and shot up the house.
Oh my God.
One of the guys that he was hanging out with was shot and murdered.
Wow.
He would have been sitting on that porch at that very same time talking to the guy, and he would have been murdered as well.
Damn, that is crazy.
It saves lives.
Yeah.
It has saved people in my life personally. I saved my life with astrology. I would have been dead by an ex. An ex would have accidentally killed me if I did not accidentally killed me, would have choked me to death in a domestically violent situation, not wanting it to go too far, but then it going too far. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, like, I had no idea that it had such predictive capacity. I mean, I've heard about and read about, people getting these very detailed, kind of diagnoses and predictions, but when I was younger, I never knew what to make of it, but it's incredible to hear your experience with it and to hear how strong it's funny because he came to you and was like, some other person said this to me. He'd be like, yeah, everybody is telling you, the whole universe is trying to get you to get out of there so that this doesn't happen to you. Like and I feel like that's something that everyone can benefit from hearing, because a lot of times we just keep getting the same sign one way or another, but we have not really correlated it. And we haven't understood that, like, everyone is saying the same thing in every way they can. It may not be, the same person or the same literal thing, but you're getting a lot of signs, man, and you're just blowing right by them, just
right.
So you got to like pay attention to what's happening in your environment and in your life.
Yeah. So people can learn how to become immortal with astrology. You can. And I had another client who had a child. I want to tell you about 2 clients. I had one client who had a child. That child was going to catch cancer. I was like, your child is going to acquire cancer if you don't do this, that, and a third. It was in the chart. And she was like, oh my God, I felt something like that, And I was like, yeah, your child is like 2 chicken wings away from having cancer.
Wow.
So she was able to change. So it's preventative. She was able to change the diet. That's all she had to do. I had another client contact me, and she was like so concerned about this relationship. I was like, I don't know why you're so concerned about this relationship when you need to be concerned about your health. And when you take care of your health, the relationship and these feelings and these emotions that you have aren't going to even be there. You're going to be able to let this go. So 2 weeks later, she went and she had a regular checkup, and the doctor said, you need emergency gallbladder surgery.
Damn.
And I told her it was her gallbladder. I told her it was one of her inner organs, and it was dealing with food processing, her stomach, and all of this stuff. She got her gallbladder removed immediately, and she forgot about her ex. She didn't even care about him anymore. He was the rotting in her gallbladder.
Wow. There's as above, so below. There's so many things that,
yes,
and we just can kind of confuse the signs, and we think that this body is separate from, everything else that's happening, and there's a direct correlation,
But how could we, when science has proven that we're made of stardust?
Literally. I know. Literally.
We're composed of stardust. We're 70% water. The moon, science has proven that the moon controls the waves of the oceans. If we're 70% water and the moon is controlling the water on the planet, why wouldn't it affect us?
Right. And I heard you say that before. You said, we are literally made of stardust. Shouldn't we be looking to the stars? Shouldn't we be
Right.
taking our cue from the stars? And I thought that was so profound and good advice. I mean, to achieve a level of happiness and ease, because what it's all about is also not just, I mean, obviously there's going to be struggle, and challenges are what make us, greater versions of ourselves. But I think like the more ease you can find in your life, and the
Yes.
more you can, and that comes with right thinking,
Mm-hmm.
because the two don't go, they're not aligned. You can't really have them both happening at the same time. They just don't go together, like
Right.
stuff. I could walk down the same street, as my twin brother, and we're not gonna, at the same time, and we're not gonna have the same experience, and because we're not, we're not the same person. We're not generating the same reality, so to speak.
Exactly. And I love that example about you and your twin brother. By the way, my mom is a Leo and she's an identical twin as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's kind of like understanding that we even have parallel universes, parallel realities. I see myself in parallel realities now. I can feel myself interacting. I'm still in a relationship with my ex in a parallel reality, my twin flame. I can
Is that the
see.
one born on August 7th?
No,
Oh, okay. Just
I
checking.
wish. No, he's just young. He's growing. But my twin flame, he's a Gemini. So we're still like walking on the beaches together, holding hands. It's just really dramatic and cute. The one that almost killed me. So nevertheless, when it comes to you and your brother, I love talking about this when it comes to twins. And we have the North Node in Gemini, which is the twins. Nevertheless, I tell clients, when it comes to your chart, you're never going to live outside of your chart. Even you and your twin brother, you guys have the same chart and you guys are not living outside of your chart. But there are many different delineations within one aspect. And depending upon you and yourself, who you are, your energy, your karma, your dharma, you're going to get a certain outcome. Your brother is acting out those other thoughts that you have that you may not take the dominant action on. You guys are the same. You guys are still the same person, but you're thinking, you guys have the same thoughts too, but you act on this thought whereas he acts on that thought. That doesn't mean that it's outside of the chart, because I could tell you, for instance, Mercury in Libra. Mercury in Libra. This person has Mercury in Libra, or you have Mercury in Libra, and you're going to experience a square of Mercury. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, you're going to get in an argument with your wife. Another delineation of that is a business deal that you signed. You're going to have to readdress that business deal that you signed, this partnership that you are in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That may happen to you with the business, but then your brother could be getting in an argument with his wife.
Right. Or divorce.
Or a divorce. It's still the same thing. You know what I'm saying? But the issue is not astrology. The issue is the language that we speak. The human language in English is so bastardized and misconstrued, and there's so many different words just for one thing. Mm-hmm. But contractual agreements, partnership, and communication is all that there is. I'm still telling you, even if it's an argument with your wife, that's still a partnership and an argument and some type of a contractual agreement.
Right. And usually the argument's about maybe someone not, or the other person feels that they're not fulfilling their part of the agreement. That's usually how arguments come about. Like, I did this and this, and can you do this? And you're like,
yes,
but I was doing this. And, that's a lot of the things that I think, domestic couples get into about, responsibility, especially.
I agree.
But, so my twin brother, we're 17 minutes apart. I can't remember the exact time we were born, but would that make a difference? I mean, even
Yes,
like
that would.
17 minutes, it would, right?
That
Yeah.
would make a difference. That'll make a difference in you all's degrees when it comes to your rising signs, and that could even change your rising sign.
Yeah.
You know, you could be a Cancer. What time were you guys born?
That's a great question. Damn it. I was trying to remember it was when I said that. I would have to check. I would have to check. Maybe my mom remembers. I could text her.
But yeah, depending upon, like, you say, for instance, you were born early in the day and you're a Cancer rising, and your brother's born 17 minutes later, but 17 minutes later, the rising sign went into Leo. And
Right.
you're a Cancer rising and he's a Leo rising.
Yeah. I'm gonna find out, but I mean, we've always been, we've always had pretty different personalities. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're on the same wavelength. We've finished each other's sentences. We have the exact same reaction to the exact same statement often. I have no doubt that wherever he is, he's probably wearing green today. I'll give him a call later and find out. There's a wavelength, right? Like we've showed up apart. Like I live in New York City, and he was living in Pennsylvania, and he still is. But we were both invited to a party in Jersey, which is kind of in between. And we showed up wearing the exact same thing, and he was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Dude, I'm closer with him than you are." He was like, "Go home and change." I'm like, "Get the fuck! I'm not going anywhere, dude. Just embrace it, man." I'm like, "Whatever."
That's fascinating.
He was so upset. He was so embarrassed. I was like, "Who cares, man? We're twins. Like, we look good."
Well, you know what's interesting about that? You know the August 7th guy that I told you about?
Mm-hmm.
I really thought he was the one I was going to marry. And I have a sister. We're not twins, but we're very similar but different.
Mm-hmm.
She's more like the evil twin. She would say that I'm the evil twin, but whatever. And she's getting married, and I had a huge event last year on your birthday, actually, but not for him. I had a huge event called the Real Family Reunion, Return of the Gods, and her husband, fiance, came to the event in the same exact outfit that the August 7th Leo came in.
Wow.
In there were 600 people at this event. No one else had on the same outfit. No two women had on the same outfit. No two men had. Only these two men had the same outfit on. And that made me feel like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. This is your fiance, and he's wearing the same outfit as the guy I'm in love with. Like, maybe that means,
Yeah.
It was really dramatic, actually.
I'm sure what. I mean, like, little synchronicities like that kind of they blow you away, because that the odds, I mean, it makes you really stop and question the word odds. What are odds?
Right.
But we're so interconnected, and there's so many instances, which of course are, I think, everywhere. And we have no capacity to track them. If we could actually gauge and see the amount of synchronicities happening, with people across the world, and like, imagine we would, I don't know, we would have to pick up our jaw off the ground and try to figure out how it works again, because I think it would be so awesome. It would just be jaw dropping. We would never believe it. I just think, if you knew how many people out there were literally having the same exact thoughts for you you in the same exact moment, you'd be like,
I experience it all the time, but that's how I live my life.
Yeah.
I make money based off of that. I put out statuses because I'm putting out stuff that everyone's thinking in that moment. And people are like, oh my God, you're living in my head. Kateria, get out of my head. Why are you reading my mind? I'm like, I'm reading all of your guys' minds right now. We share this cosmic collective consciousness. And when we early in the day, when we get an idea, I'm the first to act on it before any of y'all do. I'm like, oh, hold up. They put an ad out there that we could do. Let me add it. Because, like, my best friend had the idea to do a Black family reunion years ago, but she never actually acted upon it. So then the spirit said, you know what, let's go on ahead. Kateria, we had this idea and I actually acted upon it. It's
Yeah.
the family reunion, Return of the Gods. She's so fascinated by like, oh my God, I had this exact idea and you actually put it into action. I just love it. And she works with me on it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And ideas, like, and when you say that, it's like everyone has this innate ability. And I just think that some people really foster it, and cultivate the ability in themselves. People like you get really good at it, and then combined with everything else that you're good at. But I think everyone has this innate ability to kind of tune into what is happening, in parts of society and parts of the world, and what the thinking is, because it is there to be tuned into. You are connected to it, and
Yes.
it's just an experience that people, and it begs the question, when you're walking down the street and you have a thought and it's like, I wonder why the fuck did I think that? Like, I wonder where that came from. Sometimes you get a thought in your head, you're like, or sometimes an image in your head, you're like, why did I just see a weird guy with a mustache, like, in my mind? Like, I have no idea why this weird silhouette image, sometimes I think like, it probably wasn't mine. You know what I mean? It was probably, I'm just picking up on what somebody else or something else is thinking.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people probably do that and aren't aware that that's where it's coming. That could be a source of it.
True. True. Yeah. I actually, I don't remember how old I was, but I was in my teens. I was in my early teens. And I heard and saw a conversation of a mother and daughter talking about some blinds that they wanted to get in their living room. And they're like, no, I think the turquoise ones would look really, really nice. Yeah, it will da 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 da. And I'm like, first of all, this conversation is boring. And no one's around, I'm not hallucinating. I'm not crazy, but I'm seeing this full entire conversation happening. And I'm like, we're more connected than we know as human beings. I mean, literally, there's no way that we could be outside of creation. Creation is the one thing, the creator, the source of all things. We're all connected to that. And that one thing is manifested in all of us. We're just droplets of that one big gigantic thing called creation itself. And so we're connected there's some core where we're all connected. It's like the ocean. We have this big ocean, but then if I take some water and I splash, and you get those little sprinklets on your face, that one little dot right here, even he's still the ocean,
right?
So connected to all of the water. And even what you were talking about with your twin brother, that's an example of a quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
We're all quantumly entangled at our core, at the root of all creation.
Yeah.
So we're going to have similar experiences, think similar ideas. Like even this hairstyle that I'm wearing right now is called the shag mullet. And I didn't know that a bunch of girls are wearing this hairstyle right now. I didn't know that a bunch of girls are on TikTok putting their hair in a ponytail and they're just shaking it. And I just really felt like this is how I wanted to wear my hair right now. But we're all connected to a similar thing. And this is what makes business thrive, because we all have these ideas and we're fascinated when someone actually creates it, and then we go spend our money because we value that, because it's something that is within us.
Yeah. That's the best part of the system that we have set up for now anyway,
as humans.
Yeah. It's funny, ideas. And you spoke briefly with Hunter. He's a fantastic writer, and one of the films that he wrote, he talks about how, and this happens, of course, this happened, I think, since the beginning of time. Now with technology, it's easier to keep track of and learn, like whether you're talking about how two movie studios can be working on a Peter Pan movie in total top secret clandestine secrecy, not 10 miles apart, and not know that the other one is doing it, only to find out afterwards and throw up their hands like, what? To, scientists working, one in Antarctica, one in, the other pole, and literally having the same breakthrough, the same, and working on the same thing. And like one comes out and maybe like a week before the other one. And it's like, wait a minute, how is that possible? Well, that's because consciousness is connected, and you're not the only one having these thoughts, these ideas. They're they exist. I think humans are starting to come to more understanding about this. Like this whole notion of owning an idea is crazy, but we are where we're at right now. So, but it happens often. I forget the name of it. Hunter, remember what's the name of the what do they call the it's not the monkey theory, right? Where one person has one idea in one part of the world and the other person is having it in a different part of the world. I know he probably walked away from his computer. Yeah, he's gone. Whatever. Anyway,
could tell us.
Yeah. Anyway, so my mom said that I was born. Well, she said Frank, my twin, was born at 12:17, and I was born 17 minutes after that. So
12:17 p.m.
So he was 12:17. I was 17 minutes after that. So my math is terrible. So 12:34. I don't know.
That would be
17 plus
12, like 37, or
let me see.
Something
34. Yeah, 12:34 I was born.
Yeah. 17 plus 17. Yeah. Okay. So, and that's in the afternoon, PM?
No, it's morning.
Oh.
It's the AM.
So then you guys are, I'm not going to put the calculations in, but you guys are either Taurus or Gemini risings. I mean, you could definitely be a Gemini rising since you have a talk show podcast.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense.
I like the way that sounds, Gemini rising.
Yeah. Are you going through like from 2020 to 2022, you'll be going through an experience of really having to dive more into yourself, more into just who you are, your character development, more me and self-focused at this particular time. And like, this is a time where you are looking at your trajectory of your life and your personality and thinking like, am I living according to my purpose? How is my life going? And also these changes can take an effect on you physically, where you go through a physical transformation and want to show up differently, or really want to show up within the truth of who you are. And this is a time where you're really being called to renew your thinking, your thought patterns of yourself and life and things like that in general. And shift changes within relationships as well, too, with what are those called? Like, I can't think of the word, but certain ideologies and certain growth factors within the relationship would be
it's spot on. What you're saying is spot on, with what I'm doing, what I've been doing, and what I've been thinking about, and kind of, it's funny, I've been getting a lot of artwork on my body that I've always wanted, but I have a background in film, and I'm an actor, but I'm done putting I'm done not allowing the fullest expression of me because of this notion of a career or anything like that. Like I'm just going with the flow. And so I'm getting like some artwork done on my body that I've always loved and wanted to do, and seeing it come to an amazing vision, like the piece that I showed you. So it's funny that you say that, because it's like, it's spot on. Of course it's spot on. That's why you get the big bucks.
Between 2018 to 2023, you're going to be going through shifts and changes career-wise, if you haven't already.
So, I mean, yeah, there's been some shifts, so I imagine there'll be more. But yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff on the horizon. So
you're going to be changing entire industries as well.
That's
You would do well having a restaurant. You would do well doing anything creative. You would do well having a jewelry business, farming business, opening up a marijuana dispensary, selling crystals and getting into Reiki and,
Mhm.
along with what you do with your podcast, so.
Yeah, we have a lot of things in motion. Um, so it's a really exciting time because a lot of them are starting to really come to fruition, and there's some big things happening. So
Yes.
very exciting. Yeah. Um, so I have you ever heard of Carol Ryder? His name is Carol Ryder. He was like an astrologer to the stars, right? He was Reagan and Nancy, or Ronald Reagan and Nancy's astrologer, I guess. He was a Hollywood guy. I had to ask because it's fun. The last guests I had on,
Familiar.
like I don't I think he was probably like 84 years old back in 1983. Like, so
Okay.
he just had a profound impact on a new friend of mine who he was a guest on the last podcast.
Okay.
My friend met him in Hollywood, and he was kind of like, they just moved to Hollywood when they were like 23 years old, and he was like, what, we didn't know what else we wanted to do, so we thought, we'll move to Hollywood and get discovered. He was like, brilliant. So we ended up at this guy's birthday party. His name was Carol Ryder, and he's a famous astrologer. And this young 23-year-old man, his name's John Denny, he met this man, and he was like, he was the happiest guy I've ever met in my life. And here he was, it was his 83rd birthday party. And he talked to me. I was 23, and he's like, and he started to teach me and tell me about why he's so happy and his understanding of the universe. And he's like, that's what changed my life. So it was like one interaction kind of changed the course of this guy's life, and he would go on to study under this guy and learn a lot from him. So it's so cool.
That is so, oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah. Astrology, man. And we're in the age of Aquarius. And like I mentioned, Aquarius rules astrology. That's why it's becoming so popular right now. And I mean, if everyone, and I said this a couple of days ago or yesterday, if everyone was aligned with their chart and their true purpose in life, and they understood the power of astrology, we would all become free. We wouldn't need any people above us telling us what to do, when to do it, or how to do it, because we'll have another governance over us, and that being the heavens. It's such a fascinating thing, and we also won't have judgment upon other people. I'm not going to judge this celebrity who's getting a lot of attention and all of that. I'm like, I don't know who they were in their past life to why they are in this lifetime living this type of a lifestyle. I'm not going to judge the person who is strung out on drugs. Maybe in their chart, it shows them going through this type of an experience, but they're going to overcome and become a drug counselor or whatever, like you don't know who or what a person's experience is calling for. And if all of us could have that kind of understanding, could we just imagine how beautiful life would be?
My God, it would be a different planet. It would be a different planet with a different people on it. That's why I think it's so important. It's funny I mentioned that, if I was in charge of the educational system, I would really put, and I think it's so important, the things that we need to be teaching our children about, non-judging and
Yeah.
living in, cultivating this state of this non-dualistic thinking. And then when our children get to be adults, the world's going to cease to operate the way it has traditionally, because everything that we have set up is really divisive.
Yes, it
It's a
is.
bad planning done by a bunch of old
Narcissist.
narcissist white dudes who were making power plays. I mean, and it's all,
Yeah.
the dominoes have yet to fall, but it's mind-blowing to me to see the system's still in place. And you see them starting to unravel now, and starting to be exposed now, which I think we starting to really turn a corner, and people are really being like, wait a minute.
Yeah, we've been
What?
bamboozled.
Yeah, we've been exactly. I heard you talk about that, and that's another reason I was like, I'm I know I've come to the right place. Like hearing you talk about how the fact that astrology, just like midwifery, just like
Yeah,
holistic medicine, it was systematically propagandized against by the whatever you want to call them, the elites, so that people would not be empowered. I mean, like, it's the same reason why they put fluoride in the water. They're not trying to get you, they don't want you to have the most enlightened existence. Okay, they want you to be just another consumer, aka
exactly.
slave. So
Yes.
people are starting to wake up to that, and it's getting harder and harder to deny. That's for sure.
Because we're no longer in the age of Pisces, which rules slavery.
Mhm.
Pisces rules slavery. Pisces rules lies, deception, confusion. It rules religion. It all of that, and we're coming out of that. So we're not in that age anymore. So, and we're in the age of Aquarius, which is the age of the knowing. It's not enough to just drink water. You have to know what kind of water it is, So, and I just said, this is
Probably talking to me too much. I say that a lot.
we all do it because it's a part of the times that we're in, and Aquarius rules science. But I wanted to kind of double back on speaking about judgment. Now, even to say to not people need to not judge is to judge the people that are judging, So I want to kind of retract that just a bit, because having a level of judge, I think people are misconstrued with that. They think, oh, I'm not going to judge, so I'm just going to let things happen. Like, no, you need to judge and determine what is right or wrong for yourself, but don't judge what is right or wrong for another person if you don't know what their experience consists of or what they need. And even if you do know, you don't know what they need to actually learn for why they are going through whatever their experience is. But yeah, you could judge, like, what, drugs are not cool. That's something that's not for you, because the harm, and that's not what you are trying to experience in your lifetime. So I just wanted to kind of double back on that.
No, absolutely, and I'm glad you did, because I don't mean to promote this notion that there's we all have and need preferences and boundaries. I mean, they're part of
Exactly.
what makes us human, and
Exactly.
those are healthy. You
Yes.
know, but walking down the street and judging a woman you see for the shoes she has on is not exactly a healthy way of
Exactly.
going about your life, or
Yeah.
judging someone for their looks, their aesthetic, how they look on the outside in general is not a very good practice, because that's like the smallest part of who that person is. And here you have made a decision about them based on it. That's a terrible way to make a decision. It's not an informed decision.
Yeah.
That's
So
all I was trying to say.
so played out to do that too.
It is, man.
Like, we are all vibrational beings. Like, tap into that person's vibration before you judge them, just based off of whatever notion. But I mean, people do tend to dress their vibration.
Yeah.
I'm kind of breaking out of that. Like, I dress like Mary Poppins sometimes, and I will be listening to some hood ratchet music when I'm wearing my glasses, dressed like full on Mary Poppins outfit. But then sometimes I will be dressed with a crop top shirt and some jeans and some tennis shoes, and I'm over here listening to classical music and
Yeah.
tapped into that zone, So, in
Yeah.
yeah,
But you can bust out of the stereotypes, because everything is its own experience, and we're making it up as we go along anyway. So,
we are.
well, why not do it differently? So, Kateria, let me take you far out with me, because you cannot get off the show without telling me about that experience you may or may not have had with. I mean, I know that I obviously you're very open minded, so I know that this question is not going to be a "what are you talking about?" But what is your experience like? Have you ever seen a UFO? Have you been on a UFO? Have you seen them fly by? You're in a great place to see them, actually, where you're at.
So, yes, I have, but I have even a deeper experience. I've actually been contacted by other dimensional beings.
Hmm.
So I've been abducted before.
Very cool. Well, how was the experience?
It was fascinating. I mean, So it happened back in 2012. It's happened twice, actually. Happened back in 2012. The second time, I believe, was in 2015. And I was abducted by two different races of other dimensional beings. So I was abducted by a race of beings called the elementals. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them, but they are not, they're not like an completely unknown race of beings. And they actually are beings that dwell on Earth. This is why I call them other dimensional. So
Right.
at the time when it happened, I had a friend who was fascinated by the idea of aliens and all of that. Back then, I was 24 or 25. So back then, when you would ask me, "Oh, do you believe in aliens?" It's like, I don't care enough.
Yeah.
I don't think about aliens.
Yeah.
And so I was drinking a lot of colloidal gold, platinum, silver, copper, and all of these things.
I see. Yeah.
And, I was eating a raw food diet, and I was working on my event, the Real Family Reunion, Return of the Gods, and I was laying down, about to go to sleep with my children, but I wasn't like sleepy, really. I was just laying down. And so as I was laying down, what happened? I was just laying there, right? And while I'm laying there, like my energy body came out of my body, and I was on this like turquoise electric blue stream,
like a tractor beam, almost like a yeah.
And when I stopped, my face and my eyes went into this other world, and I'm looking like, what is this, and I'm freaking out. Because even before it happened, let me just take it back a little bit. Before it happened, I hear the sound over my apartment complex. I didn't see anything. I didn't see like any flashing lights or anything. That's all I was hearing. I was like, that's a weird sound. And then my body, that happened to me. So this, a blue electric being comes to me, and he says, at the time, I didn't make it out until later, like months later, but he said, we are the elementals. We are coming. We only show ourselves to people who are able to see our world. And I'm like, oh, okay. It was millions of them. They were all so beautiful. The women were way more beautiful than us. They had these big dramatic eyes. They look like Avatar. And I feel that the movie Avatar got that story from the elementals, because they're not like a hidden race of beings, but nevertheless, they told me that they wanted to initiate me into their world. I didn't know what any of that meant. I started having a panic attack, an anxiety attack. I was like, can you do something to take my anxiety away?
Yeah.
I was freaking out, and he placed a turquoise crystal in the palm of my hand. He said, you need to carry turquoise on you everywhere you go to help with anxiety. You are an Aquarius. Now, first of all, I'm like, how do you know that? But I'm not going to ask questions, And so he said that we would teach you all of the ologies: astrology, numerology, herbology. And he said the word ologies. I've never heard anyone say all of the ologies.
Right.
And it was a fascinating experience. And I said, okay, I would love to go with you. Oh, and he said, we'll teach you how to make money and how to be youthful forever. And I was like, this is incredible. I would love to go with you guys. But I know after me going with you guys, I'm going to be changed forever in a state that I don't understand myself. I would like to write in my diary first, about my spiritual awakening experience and these other things before I go. Yeah. And a woman spoke, and she said that I'm free to do whatever I want to do. I was like, I'm here by myself. I mean, I'm at home by myself with my children. There's no one to watch my children if I go with you guys, and they're like, you don't understand. It's not, we didn't like take you. You're still in bed with your children.
Right. That's why when you said abducted, I was like, wait, but I wanted to hear your story first. Yeah.
I didn't know how abduction works or anything. I don't even know. I haven't listened to other people's alien stories. This is just my own. I don't have time to listen to others. And so she told me that, but I was like, okay, but I don't want to be changed. I want to, I still have things that I need to be. Yeah. And so they were like, you're free to do whatever you want. They loved me so much. Yeah. They loved me.
You could feel the love, right?
Yeah. I feel like they still are with me.
I think they are. I think it's safe to, I mean, I think that the contact that was made was because they have a relationship with you, and that they are with you, and I think if you ever wanted to, cultivate that relationship more, if that's something that I'm sure you could.
I would love to. I've been trying for them to take me now. But I don't know if they will. I haven't been contacted by them, not in a direct sense. I feel like I feel
Right.
because all of the things that they told me they were going to teach me, I know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, maybe they are the ones giving me this information that I put out there.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I will say this. I always tell people I've been raised by the elements. I was also contacted by the Greys. And I didn't believe in the Greys. I didn't believe in the Greys, but I was contacted by the Greys. They told me that they are a dying race and they need more intelligence in a part of their community. And I was like, I don't have time. I have things to do on Earth. At that time, I was calm. I wasn't freaking out because I had been contacted by the elementals. But I told them, I was like, yeah, I can't, because I have to do what I'm doing here on Earth. I was just very like matter of fact.
Yeah.
And
I've had more than one guest but you're the only one who has ever been brave enough to talk about being reached out to or
you don't know
by
if you're
the
supposed
Greys.
to tell it or not. I even feel a bit conflicted with sharing the story.
Yeah. Well, because nowadays you're a little safer to share than ever, but some people are gonna judge. I
don't care about that, but it's just with the elementals, I want to protect them.
Oh yeah. I'm sure they would tell you they don't need your protection.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful story. I don't think I've ever heard them called elementals, but I'm familiar with a lot of what you're saying, and I mean, look, I believe that Avatar, that movie. I had someone on who worked in the movie for 4 years and talked about his experience and how just working on that movie changed. It led to his spiritual awakening. He's he learned about ayahuasca from James Cameron. James Cameron had them to get the scene ready, and he was like, we're going to be doing this. It's ceremony. It's an ancient plant ceremony. It's called ayahuasca. And he's like, you're going to need to be here, and this is what it's about. And he's like, so the first time I heard about this, I was like, why, I got to find out more about that. That's crazy, And I'm like, what's crazy is that you learned about freaking ayahuasca from James Cameron, dude. That's like you're probably one of the few people who can say that.
Right.
Anyway, he would go on to do the ceremony, and he's, he was a stuntman and an actor for many years. Very hardworking guy, pretty popular, pretty successful. And now he's really blazing his own path, and he's been an inspiration to me since I met him and since I started watching his shows. And so it's just so cool. I really think when you find your path, you inspire others just by being on it. And I see that clearly in you. It's awesome to talk to you. It's an honor.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been an absolute honor speaking with you as well. And I've also done the ayahuasca journey. And
nice.
But more recently, recent years, it's mind-blowing how limitless we truly are as beings. I love life. I love Earth. I love not even just life and Earth. I just love creation itself. And it's so funny because creation and life in love are all ruled by the sign Leo. So loving creation is what you're supposed to do. Yeah. Loving life is what you're supposed to do, but this has been fascinating. This has been awesome. Just speaking with you. I love that you're putting this type of information out there for more people to hear and see and all of that. So, and just all the compliments and just following my content. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you too. We're gonna include links to all your pages and with social media and all that, and so people who are interested in working with you. And I imagine there will be more. I know you're busy already, but it's been awesome. I want to give you an opportunity because to answer this question I love to ask, and because I think it's a great opportunity for you. If you could whisper into the ears of every human being on this planet, and plant a seed, a seed that would help them um, uh, become the greatest expression of themselves in this life, find the most joy, and find what their, the extent of their north node and their highest self, and the greatest vision of themselves that they really came here to do, like the song they came here to sing. What would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
I would tell people to become limitless, become eternal by tapping into the universe, which we know is limitless and which we know is eternal. And you become eternal when you tap into your astrological chart correctly. When you study the characteristics of your north node, you could do that on your own, even outside of me. You could go on, social media, not social media, but on the internet, and find out what your north node is and see if those character traits are ones that you're deficient in. I mean, try it out. This isn't even a selling point to try to get your money or anything like that. You can find out on your own. Just do that. And when you become eternal through astrology and you see yourself as a limitless being, you will have more freedom. And I don't know anything to be more joyous about than to feel free, to feel like, oh, I don't concern myself with anything that anyone is doing in their lives. Because like people are afraid, oh, we're going to have to get poked. I'm not ever going to have to get poked. Because I'm creating my reality. I'm following my own government. And I'm aligned to something beyond this world. You become beyond this world.
Yeah.
You are tapped into astrology. So being beyond this world is being beyond the havoc of this plane that we are in. It's so rewarding. I feel like I'm living in a paradise from coming from hell to now living in my paradise reality where I'm creating it all. So just, give yourself a try. I mean, it's not going to hurt to check into it.
I love it. Every time you talk, it's so clear to me how and why I found you. So thanks, synchronicity. It's a wonderful thing, and thank you for your answer. It's awesome. I encourage everyone to do the same. It's been real, Kateria. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been an absolute honor. You enjoy the rest of your day, and let's stay connected.
Absolutely, will do. You too. Thank you.